Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, that's G-R-A-N, group, at edinarealty.com, or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners.
Men for the Win is part of the Pull Tab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pull Tab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 4-game series against the Kansas City Royals. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. Dan's been gallivanting Disneyland, seeing Angels games. It sounds like you've had a wonderful spring break there, Mr. Thompson.
Gallivanting is the right term. David, have you been to Disneyland?
Never Disneyland. I've been to Disney World a few occasions.
So the first thing that struck me, well, it was one of the things that struck me, was how few Twins hats and things that I saw at Disneyland in California. And then I realized Minnesotans never go to Disneyland. They go to Disney World because there's like 50 flights a day to Orlando and there's like 2 to LA. So that I was ready to hand out stickers, but I didn't see anybody. So many things, David. So I'm not a theme park guy, right? So I don't like roller coasters. I don't like being thrilled, by things like where my body is moved quickly or side to side. So I said no to a lot of rides. I was pretty proud of myself for that, having that self-control. It's an interesting place. It's the right size. I will say I loved Star Wars. The Rise of the Resistance ride was really, really fun. But you end up doing this weird thing at Disneyland where you are staring at your phone looking at like ride wait times like across the park. And it can be very easy to think, well, I have to run across the park to go because, Hyperspace Mountain is only a 35-minute wait right now. Yeah. And then, but you're crossing the park and by the time you get there, it's 50. By the way, I didn't ride Hyperspace Mountain. That's way too terrifying. And I rode barely I didn't even ride the Ferris wheel at California Adventureland because it swings back and forth. Anyway, lots of things that I didn't enjoy, but a lot that I did enjoy. And once you get in, prices are pretty reasonable, but it's so well designed. And our tagline is that we appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. I appreciate well-designed things, right? And so as a theme park like Disneyland, I respect because it's cool. It does feel very childlike. It's very fun. My kids had a great time. So I think in the end, that was a great aspect of the trip.
Well, good to hear, Dan. They have that whole bit about when they opened Disney World, they didn't pave anything and they let people just walk, and then they call them elephant paths. And then they put down the concrete paths where the natural paths were done by people, which is pretty cool.
See, that's brilliant. Now, I will say, I got to change my hat for a second.
Please make it be Mickey Mouse ears. Please let it be. Oh, no.
I got an Angels hat at the game. It was a beautiful day. Now, do you recognize the Angels logo here that you're looking at?
Yeah, why would I not recognize
it? Well, it's their City Connect one, I think. But it basically just looks like their main one, which was kind of annoying. I think the Angels Stadium gets a lot of grief, maybe, for being old and not awesome. I thought it was fine. I think the weirdest thing, though, is that it's just in a sea of parking lots. So... you get there and I'm sure it's wonderful to drive in. I know you have a spot that you always like to park in the same ramp because you can get out easily. It's very easy to get in and out of that stadium. Now we took a lift to get there and back, but it was wonderful. It was so nice to sit at a game in April and it be 75 or 80 degrees, right?
We're begging for 50 over here. Yeah.
So in that regard, I had a great time. It's fun to see Mike Trout play. But then I left thinking, how was this team not good with Ohtani and Trout?
Yeah.
Could you not find a way?
Money, boom, 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 boom.
Anyway, so a great time, but I got to come back. I'm still checking wait times on the Disney app. Rise of the Resistance is only 45 minutes now. I'm tempted to just run down there real quick.
Oh, Dan. Well, it's good to have you back, man. It was great to have Hogs on the show, but I'm glad you could get away for spring break. A couple of notes here, just sort of random. I don't know how else to explain this, but our guy, Alex Kirilloff, I'm going to explain this for new listeners to the show. Alex Kirilloff had a surgery done where he had part of the bone in his wrist shaved down to shorten his arm, and so we always refer to him as the T-Rex because his arms are short like a T-Rex. Anyway, he has left the baseball world because of a painful reoccurring back injury, and he's not coming back from that. That's going to be
my back.
Yes, the back injuries are a theme here on this Twins team. But he has made a move, and I don't know how to talk about this, Dan, because we've been sponsored by the Grand Group for a long time. They've been our sponsors from the very first episode, and yet, Dan, Alex Kirilloff is not with Edina Realty. He's with Keller Williams Realty in the Fort Myers area. So if you're looking for a home in Fort Myers, you can contact an ex-Twin, Dan.
Is that a good career move for him to go from Major League Baseball to real estate? Is this common? Like, I don't know.
It's a bit cliche, I think, right? Like Mr. 3000 was Bernie Mac's movie about him like becoming a shoe salesman or something after. Like, I don't think it's that uncommon for you to move into an industry where name recognition is very important.
Well, I was going to say, my own insurance agent is a former college basketball player. So maybe then that's kind of how it works. Name recognition, that works out. So we really do wish him the best. I'm not buying a home in Florida anytime soon, David, but you just never know.
You never know. And then this is more for you than for me, Dan.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good right there.
Thank you.
On Sunday, they will be unveiling the Joe
going?
Mauer statue. No, I'm not going to Sunday.
Why are you not going?
I'm going to be at the game Monday night. I want to see Pete Alonso, of course.
Oh, of course,
but no, Sunday is already a booked up day for us. But but no, I will not be attending that ceremony, Dan.
Oh, man. When we are there this summer, we need to get a picture of me hugging the Joe Mauer statue. I think that's really what I want.
Yes. And then last note here, Buxton was away the last couple games of this series to deal with a family matter. We don't know if that's a death or an illness or something, but so we obviously wish Buxton and his family all the best for whatever he's dealing with. Now, I do have a trend, Dan. When things are going bad in somebody's life, I'd like to put them on my bench if they didn't perform well, regardless. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But I think with that, Dan, let's go ahead and jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
Game 1, Dan. It feels like it's just standard procedure for the Twins, the way that the first inning goes. So the Twins go down 1-2-3 in the top of the first, and then they follow that up by allowing the opposition to score a run in the bottom. This was doubles from India and Pasquantino put the Royals up 1-0. There was a scary play, actually, right to start off. India hits the double deep to left center. Buxton is racing across the field to try and track the ball down. He actually gets leather on it, but then he kind of hits the wall and the ball pops out. It's kind of a bummer. But thankfully, he wasn't like straight onto the wall, and Buxton was fine. He stayed in the game. This one ends with the Royals winning 4-2. But the Twins at least put up some fight here in the second on doubles from France and Castro. The Twins make it a 1-1 game, but the Royals come right back. 2 more runs in the bottom of the second, putting the Royals up 3-1. Now, there's a few notes about this game, Dan, that we need to talk about that are extracurricular, I'd say, to what actually was happening on the field. So first of all, the bottom of the sixth, Kyle Isbell hits a solo home run on SWR's 100th pitch. So Rocco is really leaning on SWR here. I mean, it's a ton of pitches. I think he pitched 107 when it was all said and done. But that puts the Royals up 4-1. And Rocco's going to get tossed because Jonathan India is going to walk on a pitch clock violation that wasn't really a pitch clock violation. And it's kind of hard to understand what's happened. But so there's about 8 seconds left, and SWR points to his pitch comm, and he says he can't hear it. But then Vasquez is hitting the button so many times, it finally comes through, and he catches the pitch. So there's 2 seconds left on the clock. SWR steps back on the rubber and starts his windup. But at this point, India isn't still engaged in watching SWR on the mound. So they call it pitch clock violation, not because he didn't start his windup in time, but because he didn't give the batter long enough to re-engage with the pitcher. So that's what the ump was trying to explain to Rocco, and Rocco wasn't having it, Dan. It was fun to see Rocco get fired up, and it was very much not so much about this particular call. I think Rocco knows that something needs to be done for this team.
Yeah, I have more thoughts on that I'm going to save for a later segment. Now, the top of the 8th, the Twins do have a chance. Wallner has a leadoff walk. Correa with a 12-pitch at-bat against Ursig swings at multiple ball fours, finally strikes out on a high fastball. And the Twins do in the top of the 9th add a run on an RBI single by Harrison Bader after Ty France was, of course, hit by a pitch.
You're about to begin bonding
Adamantium.
But then, and also Willie Castro had drawn a walk. He was not struck by a pitch, oddly enough. But they aren't able to actually capitalize. They do bring the tying run to the plate a couple times. SWR's final line, 5 2/3, 8 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, 6 Ks, 1 home run, and 107 pitches. This is not what we're used to seeing from SWR.
No, and it's important to note, SWR was pretty animated on the mound, I guess, for lack of a better term. He blew some kisses to some Royals runners as they were on second base, and the homer he gave up to Kyle Isbell, this is the part that's the most embarrassing, I think, if you're a Twins fan. SWR had given up a bunt single to Isbell earlier in the game, and he mocked him and showed bunt as he was coming up to the plate. Dude, if you're gonna do that and that guy hits a homer on you, go bury your head in the sand, because you need to hide your face for a little bit. That is embarrassing.
I'll tell you the truth. I'm a little confused by your tactics.
I don't like. He hasn't earned that. He's got what, 30, 40 starts in his career.
Yeah.
Come on, that's not enough. Game 2, the Twins lose this one, also in heartbreaking fashion. We will talk about some moments in this game in a little bit more depth a little bit later. They lose this one 2-1. Bobby Witt Jr. is one of those guys, David, that I love to watch, but I just hope that he is never up with guys on base, because it just seems like he does damage to the Twins all the time.
He does. Dan, I don't know if you follow professional chess. I don't know if that's something that you follow in your spare time.
I do not follow professional chess.
But you know Magnus Carlsen.
So
you know that name, right?
I do. Is he from
World
Iceland?
Champion. Norway, actually.
Norway. Yeah, one of those countries.
So anyway, they have this thing called the Magnus effect, where they might be playing a game, and as the computer is evaluating the game, the opponent to Magnus might actually be playing better, but there's this whole Magnus effect because you're playing Magnus. There's an added pressure. That's what's happened to the Twins defense every time that Bobby Witt came up to bat in this series. It was amazing, Dan, how many times that guy got on base because the Twins couldn't make a simple defensive play.
I think it's his speed. I think they're all afraid that he's going to get there faster, because at the bottom of the fourth, he doubles. Pasquantino then reaches after Gasper boots an easy grounder, so Witt goes to third. Then he scores on a Perez grounder, which of course he's going to score. Massey reaches on an infield single. I mean, the ball's not leaving really the infield very much here in this.
No!
So Pablo then allows runners to advance after throwing the ball away to first, and it's like, Twins, just make the simple play.
It's so frustrating. Top of the fifth, the Twins answer with a Ty France double, followed by a Julian hit by pitch and a Harrison Bader RBI single. So it's 1-1 at that point. Bottom of the fifth, though, Dan, this was heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Pablo exits after pulling his hamstring. Sands enters. He walks Witt Jr. to load the bases, but then gets Pasquantino to fly out to right to end the inning after a super long at bat. I don't know how many fouls it was, but it just kept going on. And he swung, Dan, I don't know at how many ball fours, more than Correa swung at the game before, but that was rough. And then top of the eighth, the best chance for the Twins. Kiersey pinch ran at first. Larnach singles to right, so you got runners on the corner with 1 out, and Carlos Correa, the championship culture builder himself,
I want to build a championship culture,
hits into a double play, which last season, Dan, he hit into a ton of double plays, and we blamed it on plantar fasciitis the entire time.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
I'm starting to think that wasn't the problem here, Dan. My goodness, he just keeps doing it.
He does, in key situations. I guess anytime you got guys on base, it's kind of a key situation. So now, and then comes the bottom of the eighth. So it's still tied at this point. We're going to talk about this moment a little bit later. Jax is on, and he gets Bobby Witt Jr. to bounce out to him, and then he throws the baseball to seemingly the person in the third row behind first base. Really weird. Bobby Witt buzzes all the way around to third, scores on a dribbler to first after that. And it was really just, to me, a tale of two stars, right? Because Bobby Witt Jr. shines in that big moment, and Correa, just a half inning before, faded.
Witt shines, Correa fades, Dan. It sounds like a memoir that you're going to be writing later about this baseball era.
Well, and there was no other spot to put this, but just a fun fact. 2 fun facts, actually. So Cole Reagans, who has reverse splits. We didn't talk about this enough earlier. So, and he is a lefty, but actually he gets righties out better than he gets out lefties. And I thought this could have been a great moment. Cole Reagans and Matt Wallner both share a birthday, which I happen to share with them, except that I'm 14 years older than them, which makes me feel super old. So that was a fun fact. They didn't get to face each other. I was a little bit bummed. I'm hoping they exchanged gifts or something like that. You know, anytime you get to hang out with somebody with your same birthday. And Cole Reagans and Cole Sands were high school teammates, David. Cole and Cole. This sounds like some kind of like a band that they could have formed, and instead they played baseball together. Fun facts.
They had to have t-shirts, I bet, Dan.
You would hope so. Absolutely. Yeah.
Cole
Anyway,
Cole.
we can move on to game 3. The bright spot, obviously. We love to talk about the bright spots when we have them. Twins win this one 4-0. A wonderful start from Joe Ryan. 7 innings, 0 runs, 2 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. And one of my favorite stats, 63 of his 85 pitches were strikes. That was remarkable. He just looked so good. Then we get a clean inning out of Griffin Jackson, the 8th. 10 strikes on 10 pitches. And then Duran, aside from a 2-out walk, pitches a clean 9th. The pitching was fantastic.
Yeah, Seth Lugo, he had 2 great starts, 12 innings pitched with only 1 earned run allowed, and 1 very bad start, 4 innings pitched and 7 earned runs against the Twins last year. He gets into the 6th in this game, but he allows a couple of runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, and those 2 runs, Dan, they came on a 2-out RBI single by Julian in the 4th, and then a 2-out RBI single by Ty France in the 6th. Both of them scored, Dan, by Carlos Correa.
See, if he gets on base first, things just work out a little bit better. But it's the knocking guys in that seems to be a problem for Carlos Correa. Bottom of the 3rd, Willie Castro, a Gold Glove worthy play to throw out Jonathan India.
Shocking. I stood up, Dan, for that one. That one was like one of those moments where just because I saw him glove it, I'm like, that's a long throw that man has to make, and he got him. It was great. And India's not a slouch, man. That guy can cruise. And then top of the 4th, I just found this interesting. Correa starts a hit and run. It's like, so it's a full count to Wallner, and so granted, it could be a walk, it could be a strikeout, or it could be contact, but it felt like Correa was actually like leaving early. He had a couple of moments in this game, Dan, where he was showing that he can run, like not well, but he can run without us realizing that he has plantar fasciitis.
He just picks his spots, like he doesn't want to put too much pressure on the feet. He doesn't have to. And then there was another notable play, the bottom of the 4th, Bobby Witt Jr. This is kind of the one time they got the better of Bobby. He tried stealing 3rd. And so then in the midst of that, Salvador Perez flies out to center field and Harrison Bader threw a strike to get Bobby Witt Jr. to double him off. I thought that was really impressive. And then in the top of the 5th, Christian Vasquez found a way to get picked off again. How is this happening?
For the second time this season, Dan. For the second time. How are we allowing this to happen? How does Rocco not say to him, if you get picked off, we're going to cut you? I don't understand how this is a thing, Dan.
Well, they have enough catchers. They just don't like them as much as they like Christian Vasquez. So.
Oh, man, I guess. But top of the 8th, top of the 9th, Twins add runs on solo homers from Matt Wallner and Ty France, respectively. I just have a little bit of a cushion, which is great because our bullpen, Dan, hasn't been the old shutdown factory we thought it would be at the beginning of the season.
No, but it also, when your offense isn't scoring many runs, I think that those mistakes are a little bit more glaring, as we saw in Game 4. So the Royals win this one 3-2. Bailey Ober pitches very well. Now, this is a road start, and he's kind of making up for the last time he was in Kansas City.
Where did all these unsupervised children come from?
And, 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, 73 pitches?
Yeah. Now, okay. Hindsight, I understand. It's way easier to criticize hindsight at 73 pitches saying, okay, we know what happened. You should have kept him in for another inning. 73 does seem a little light, especially if you were willing to let SWR go to 107. And I get that every pitcher is different and you're trying to handle their load a little bit different. You don't want them to be overworked and tired by the end of the season. 73 pitches though, Dan, when he's pitching so well, let him get to 80, 85.
I'm stunned by that, right? So anyway, bottom of the 1st, the Royals get on the board early, of course, with 3 straight singles, and it was looking like another rough one for Ober, but of course he settled in nicely. Top of the 2nd, the Twins answered on a Ty France solo shot, so it's 1-1. Then Julian hits a double, advances to 3rd on a throwing error by Waters, but then Eddie Julian's sense of base running is so poor. And this happened earlier in the series too, and I forget which game it was, but there was a ball that was hit kind of deep, and it was a question of whether it was going to get caught. He's at first, and I think it was Ty France, and basically Julian goes halfway in that. And even though France hit the ball, and I think it hit the wall, basically, Julian is only able to advance to 2nd on that. It's just Eddie Julian. What are you doing? Where's Paul Molitor? Does he not have anything that he can be teaching Eddie Julian right now? They both played, Eddie Julian's, from Canada. Paul spent lots of time in Toronto. Surely they can bond over this and have a moment where he can teach Eddie Julian how to run the bases.
Yes. So Julian's going on contact from 3rd. The ball is hit softly to India at 3rd, who's playing in, and he makes a pretty good play diving to his left, and he gets up and he's wheeling, and he throws Eddie out. Here's a couple of things, too. If you watch this play, Eddie Julian's slide is not nearly far enough to the outside of home plate. You should be reaching with your left hand to hit home plate. Your right hand shouldn't be anywhere near home plate. And because of the way he slid, he ran into the catcher and then slid. You know what I mean? The angle he took was ridiculous. You have a little bit of play there, Eddie. Take 1 step to the right. Had he timed that slide accurately, I think somebody who is the same exact speed as Eddie Julian, if you take a better line on that slide, I think you're safe. And I don't think it's particularly close.
I don't understand how he's doing this. Anyhow, top of the sixth, the Twins add another run to take a lead after walks by Larnach and France, an RBI single by Jeffers, and then comes the bottom of the seventh, David.
This is where it's rough, and this is where the hindsight, of course, is 2020. But so Sands replaces Ober, and Sands has been fantastic. He hasn't added an earned run since like his 9th birthday, I think, Dan. But so he hits Furman, then he gives up singles to Waters and India, so that allows a run. The game's tied at 2-2, and then Witt Jr. is coming up to the plate, and like if all that Witt needs to do here is hit a sac fly, he's going to hit a sac fly. So he scores Water. Casey takes the lead 3-2, and then that's all she wrote, Dan. The Twins couldn't do any damage after that.
Well, speaking of hardworking men like Bobby Witt Jr., Duke Cannon makes high-quality grooming products for hardworking men. Minnesota-based and with an all-new look, their clean new packaging featuring the Big D is unmistakable on the shelves. Whether you go for a brick of soap, a thick body wash, deodorant, hair care, beard care, cologne, Duke Cannon will have you smelling your best. Look for the Big D at Target, Walmart, Amazon, or DukeCannon.com. Once you try it, you'll be hooked. Work harder, smell better, Duke Cannon.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett! Puckett's Picks winner.
Back to the way things are
I
supposed
don't
to
like
be.
this segment today.
Back
Had
as
I
the way
known
things are
that Byron
supposed to
Buxton
be.
was going through some personal issues with his family, I wouldn't have picked him, but I picked him and I lost terribly. -5 for Byron Buxton.
That is a rough go, Dan. The listeners took Miranda, who didn't fare that much better at -3. Hogs took Correa, who ended up with 0. And I took Matt Wallner, our Minnesota boy, who had 5 points, getting me the victory, which is, again, how things are meant to be, Dan. So season standings, Dan's still in the lead with 3. I have 1 victory. Hogs and the listeners are currently skunked. I did not get the bonus point because
After all, miss, this is France.
Ty France had 19 points, Dan. Can you believe that? 19 points in Puckett's Picks. That's huge.
So of the 4 series so far, Wallner has been the picked winner for 3 of them. He hasn't had the team lead in any of them yet. Anyway, with season standings, though, I still am ahead 3-1 for you. Hogs doesn't have anything. Listeners doesn't have anything. Nobody's gotten that half-point bonus yet for picking the top player who's been different every series. Castro, Bader, Larnach, and France, which, if you'll notice, doesn't include Carlos Correa or Byron Buxton at any point.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I mean, one of us has to take Ty France here, so I'm going to take France off the board. 6 for 12 with 2 home runs, played really well in the field, had a couple of doubles also. I'm not saying my prediction is already come to fruition, Dan, but I did say that Ty France was going to have a big year and he's going to sign a big contract because he's going to bounce back and return to the form that he was more when he was a Mariner before he was injured. He's looking pretty good, Dan, in that signing for the amount of money they're paying him, $1 million. He's worth a lot more than $1 million through 4 series right now, Dan.
I think Derek Falvey knows how to pick first baseman, I think, is what it is right now. And he's also played really well against the Royals, apparently, or at Kauffman Stadium.
He's batting like 450 or something. Yeah, crazy. Like that batting average, yeah.
I'm going to pick Joe Ryan. Now, it feels right now that a starter has to go 7 to win a game, and not because the bullpen can't hold a lead per se. It's because that's how long it takes for the Twins to score like 2 runs. So Joe Ryan,
that's the equation that you have to put together. Like, how many innings does it take for the Twins to score runs?
So I just, it was a great start. They need more out of that. He has looked really very good.
Yeah, I got to go with Buxton on my bench though. 0 for 8 with 5 Ks. Again, I think he was probably in a hard spot mentally here if there was stuff happening with his family. So I feel a little bit bad. But hey, man,
this
put
is
Kyle
your tradition,
Farmer,
though, right?
I mean, Kyle Farmer. Got hit in the face for the fastball. But to be okay, again, in my defense, he was like 0 for 12 up to that
he
point.
Was.
It's not
it wasn't
not like he was having a good series.
When your children are like they fall off a swing or like they go on a slide that's too long, is your first move to criticize the choice that they made for like riding on something that was too big for them, or do you comfort them first?
Oh, I don't. Neither. Well, it depends on the child, if I'm honest. If it's my boy doesn't cry unless he's actually injured. From like an injury perspective, if he's crying, I get concerned because I've seen that kid take some hits and he's just like, I'm okay, daddy. But my daughter, it's a very different ball game. That's a very much comfort first, regardless. I mean, it could have been that a pine cone touched her foot. You know, it's like, it's not aggressive here.
Well, maybe we should keep that in mind with the Twins players. Maybe some of them respond to criticism worse, or something like that. So
they're all listening. They play this in the clubhouse from what I understand.
Well, so my guy on the bench.
I am not throwing away my shot.
Jose Miranda was 1 for 10 with 4 strikeouts, and I'm just waiting for that guy who's going to be an MVP candidate that you have been predicting. Because, and quite seriously, with Royce Lewis out, with Brooksley out, though it sounds like he's coming back.
My back!
At some point, Jose Miranda has to say, yeah, I think I want to be a major league player. Is that too harsh?
The way you phrased that was like Jose Miranda doesn't think that currently.
Well,
I think he probably does think that. He's just not fulfilling what he needs to for that to be the case. I do think, though, that he has the skill set to do it, but I am losing a little bit of faith here, Dan.
Yeah.
Like, especially, like you just mentioned, this is a big moment for him where he could claim that third base spot and be like, well, no, I'm going to bat 270, but I'm going to hit a ton of home runs and I'm going to hit for power. But if you're not great in the field and if you're not hitting for anything, let alone power, that's a problem when you got so many guys coming up who have infield aspirations.
All right, well, we have lots to say about Rocco here. Let's move forward.
Rocco's Rewind.
It's on my right, Dan. It's just a whole
I know. See, you got to switch hands. I get this. Yes. Okay, so Rocco gets tossed in game one. And if you haven't watched John Boy Media's breakdown of this, it's fantastic. I mean, he talks through all the thing. He even does the lip reading thing, which at first I'm like, is this like a Star Wars fake lip reading thing? But this is like real. So Rocco goes out to talk to home plate umpire Nic Lentz. And I think Rocco comes out kind of with this mentality.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Like, Rocco is going to come out there with guns ablazing and show he had, again, according to John Boy's lip reading, a lot of F-bombs out of Rocco. He doesn't seem like an F-bomb guy. But I think that he should have let Nic Lentz explain himself. And you see Nic Lentz on the video, at least in the breakdown, being like, hey, Rocco, I'd like to explain what happened. And Rocco's like having none of it. And I get the tendency to to come on strong. Like Rocco's trying to make a point here, right? But at some point, you do need to step back and maybe actually have a conversation. It's like he clearly went out there wanting to get tossed, I think, to make a point for his team. But it's like, Rocco, this is not the way that I think you ought to handle this. I think you need to be a little bit calmer. And I get that we criticize Rocco for not being like worked up enough, but choose your spot.
Yeah, Rocco basically, he's a 0 to 60 guy, but there's nothing between 0 to 60. He's either I'm a man, I'm 40, or he's this guy.
Yeah, I'm a llama again.
like he's just super excited about llamas and having a good time and building a family feeling around the clubhouse.
Where did all these unsupervised children come from?
Yes. But I do think that in that moment, he wasn't going to listen to whatever Lentz had to say to him regardless. But in Rocco's defense in this situation, that was a big moment for that walk to happen. And I think letter of the law, I understand John Boy makes the point in his video that he's saying the reason why Lentz called it that way is because you don't want pitchers to take advantage of this sort of loophole of stepping off and then stepping on and then not giving the batter time to recognize that the windup is happening. Yes, if this seemed like there was shenanigans happening and SWR was trying to trick out India by doing this whole step off, step on thing, my pitch comm isn't working, sure. But this is the first time it happened throughout the game. Clearly, this is not the at-bat to try these shenanigans on a full count where it's a huge play. I think this time I'm going to try quick pitching him by faking an issue with my pitch comm. Now, granted...
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It didn't pay off. I don't think this was a play by SWR. Yeah. And so it's just frustrating that that's the way it had to be called. And I think that's Rocco's point is he's saying there's an easy way to make this right. Just call it a timeout. Like you as the umpire, call it a timeout and regroup. And I just think in that moment, the umpire needs to read the room and understand that this isn't SWR trying to pull a fast one here. And I think that's so much of the case in basketball too, right? Like there's times when umps need to sort of read the room as far as when they're letting things happen. And I just think in this moment, the umpire maybe didn't screw up letter of the law to prevent quick pitching, but he did screw up from what I would argue is the right call in that scenario.
Maybe it was the wink earlier that threw him off.
And like I said, SWR did nothing to help his case in this circumstance of like just being a nice professional baseball player who's not being kind of a jerk to the opposing team.
What do you have?
Oh man, we didn't even get to mine. I'm so worked up about this one. Okay, let me. Where are these fundamentals, Dan Thompson? Can you explain this to me? This is what I don't understand. All we hear about during spring training is how you have all these guys in these mandatory practices and these mandatory drills, and we're going to have you do these situational hittings. How many times do we see guys swinging wildly at first pitches, Dan? It's driving me nuts. The base running blunders, Vasquez getting picked off, Larnach ending an inning for overrunning second base when Correa was already in the dugout drinking Gatorade, and Larnach's like, I think I'll try and make it to third base. That seems like the right move here. No, you got Paul Molitor for crying out loud, the base running assassin here. Put him to use. And then Further, Dan, pitchers being unable to field their position. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but Pablo should be able to make a throw to first base. Jax should be able to make a play to first base. This shouldn't be that difficult. How are you not having these guys take grounders and throwing to first base, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's as good of a transition as any into the Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
Yeah, Jax's unearned run that really should have been an earned run in game 2 at the bottom of the 8th.
1,000%.
So I've seen pitchers do this too, where they like jog halfway to first and then underhand toss it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what Rocco needs to institute, because you have to play better fundamental defense. I do think that Rocco's on the hot seat now. I think that there's too much talent on this team to be 4-9 in this division and the way that they are losing baseball games. I just don't know that he's doing the best job right now. And we saw him overreact to in game 1, and we saw him do this now. Is this too, are you looking at me like in a smug look?
It's not smug. And I'll tell you what that look is here. In my original Mauer's musing, like I'm jumping ahead here, I had put, is Rocco on the hot seat? And I deleted it because what I thought Dan Thompson would say, I thought you would say, no, you can't blame the manager too much for this. Like, the guys just aren't hitting. And so when you said that, I was like, oh my goodness, I should have kept that as my Mauer's musing, because I just assumed it wouldn't be interesting, because we would both be like, it's early, I don't think we can really let this happen. And now out of the mouths of babes here, out of the mouths of Dan Thompson comes the words, Rocco's on the hot seat.
I think he is. I just think this team is not playing very well, and you pointed it out. It's fundamentals, and if you say you're going to focus on fundamentals in spring training and then your team comes out and plays like this, that's a red flag.
My Minnesota moment here has to be, is that I don't even know what segment we're in anymore. I'm like looking at the notes. I got all twisted and turned around here. But so my Minnesota moment has to be game 3. There were no defensive mistakes, Dan, in the entirety of this game for like the first time this season, because it felt like so many games that the Twins have lost this season have happened because of 1 or 2 poor defensive plays. And this game was flawless. The pitching was fantastic. The defensive plays, fantastic. Everybody was in. And if you look at the lineup, Dan, it's not exactly who you would align as the A lineup for your defensive structure, but everybody was there making plays. Eddie Julian's making plays, for crying out loud. Willie Castro's playing like a Gold Glover at third base. Harrison Bader is throwing strikes from the outfield to get Bobby Witt. This was a fun game to watch defensively, and I just wish that every game was like that. And I understand there's going to be mistakes, but my goodness, if you had this level of defense for this whole season, Dan, this record is way closer to 500.
I mean, you mentioned the guy, Brooks Lee, who is known for his defense. I think all these guys are just afraid that Brooks is going to take their spot, which I think is a good segue into Mauer's musings.
He's got a back problem.
So he does.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
Brooks Lee, Dan, likely back for this homestand. I don't think he's going to be back for the Tigers series, but I think for sure by the Mets series, he's going to be up. So Dan Thompson, you're in the manager seat. They fired Rocco. They put you in the chair. I hope you're not going to tell me that it doesn't matter what you think, like Hogs did in the last episode, which is maybe one of the most ridiculous things Hogs has ever said on this show. Well, it doesn't matter what I think. What are we doing here? What are we doing this show for? But anyway, who are you sending down? Dan, are you sending Miranda down? Are you sending Julian down? Are you sending Gasper down? What are you doing here, Dan?
I definitely want to send this guy down.
Oh, Canada.
Because of all the things that we've talked about here. And I do think that's the most logical move positionally. So I think that is what's going to happen. But I think they're putting a lot of faith. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think I am putting a lot of faith in Brooks Lee to be able to come up and be a difference maker on this team right now, because they need a spark. They need somebody who's going to come out and say, I love baseball. I'm going to play it well. I'm going to play it hard. And if we lose, okay, but at least I'm not going to airmail a throw.
I disagree here, actually. I think that Miranda is going to be the guy who's going to go just because he's played so poorly. And Julian has actually shown a little bit of life here. And yes, he's not great at second base, and you're going to have to deal with probably an error every 3 to 4 games. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. But he's looked way more comfortable at the plate. He had an at-bat today that I really appreciated. He struck out, but he held off on it wasn't like a 90-mile-an-hour fastball down the pipe. Like, it was low, and I think it was a good hold. Like, it wasn't a for sure, oh, this is definitely a strike. And to see Julian get upset at that was way better than the dejected Julian we saw last season, who watched strike 3 right right down the middle 1,000 times.
I just can't get over the slide and the poor base running. It's one of the 5 tools.
I don't think that your arguments are poor here. I just think that Julian has shown a bit more life, and Miranda has looked so lost to start the season. I think Brooksley will be great at third base, and I think they got to stick with Julian because, yeah, he's struggling and there's some things that he needs to address, but I think he's the better player right now.
I mean, his batting average is better. I mean, he's at 214. Miranda's at 143 with about 200 points more in the OPS. So
it's sort of crazy that neither of us said Gasper, to be honest.
I know. Well, he's safe. Well, his wound is healed, so he's finally full strength. My musing is on the other side, so I'm looking at pitching with Pablo Lopez going on the injured list with a grade 1 hamstring strain, which if we know anything about hamstrings, well, if we know anything about any body part, it's the hamstring right now.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
And grade 1 is the low one, right? So like that's the call you want to get from the doctor, like, oh, you have a grade 1 hamstring pull. So anyway, he's out for a bit though, a couple starts at least. It sounds like David Festa is actually going to get the start on Friday, but then maybe Zebby's going to get they're going to work their Los Angeles Dodgers like roster jujitsu here to make sure they get the most of this. But do you think that either Zebby or Festa stays and doesn't get sent back down?
No, I sort of wish
but
that
you're
would be
the great
case.
Chris Paddock anti-defender here.
Oh, if I had my way,
that's what we're asking. That's why I'm asking you the
not
question.
What you asked.
If you were in charge, you just said if we have a podcast.
No, you asked what I thought would happen, not what I want to have happen, Dan. Very different question. You would always do this every time. I don't understand. It's not that difficult to understand question phrasing, Dan. You're an English teacher.
There he is, beating that dead horse.
You're arguing about semantics here rather than the heart and the letter.
Questions. They're different questions. If I ask you, what do you think's going to happen versus what would you like to have happen? Those are two very clearly distinct questions, Dan. And if you proposed both of those as a thesis to your students, I guarantee the papers would be different.
Would they be? We'll see. Anyway.
I guess I can't say for sure.
I love my students, but nuance is not their strength, David.
That's not even nuance, though, Dan. That's just like factually different. But anyway, what I think is going to happen? No, I think that Fest is going to make a start. He's going to get sent down. Zebby's going to come up, make a start, and then he's going to get sent down. And then if Pablo needs a third start, I'm guessing it'll be whichever of those two guys is up next in the rotation. Yeah, if I had my way, though, I think that you let Festa pitch on Friday. You let Paddock pitch on Saturday. You don't let Zebby pitch on Saturday. You keep him available. And if Paddock gets destroyed, like it's very likely he may, then I think it is time to make that move and put him on the IL or do whatever you need to do, especially if Zebby and Festa both look really good in their starts. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think they are going to do this whole he comes up, he goes down, he comes up, he goes down. But yeah, I just don't see that happening any other way.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens here in this Tigers series. Let's go on here to series grades.
Series grades.
So I got to give him a D here. I don't know that there's much more you can do from the pitching perspective. And really, I don't want to be so harsh to Sands and Jax because, yeah, you gave up a couple of runs, but your relievers aren't going to be perfect for the whole series. And honestly, the blame of this series is on the offense. The Twins scored 2 runs in game 1, 1 run in game 2, 4 runs in game 3, and 2 runs in game 4. It's not enough, Dan. You have to allow for some margin of error for your pitchers, and the offense has not done that.
Yeah, I guess I'm giving the same evidence, but I'm going to read it slightly differently and give them a C, which I think is the grade you want to give them, but I will give them because of that, because the pitching was good. The bats were not there, and it wasn't like they didn't have situational hits. They did, but they didn't have enough of them. They didn't have enough big blasts. We'll see when Royce Lewis comes back in a few weeks, whether that makes a difference. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of punch right now to this lineup.
No. I think that the hitting will come around, though. Honestly, I'm not in a state of absolute panic.
Because I'm about to panic.
But if they lose the next 5 in a row, then yes, Dan, that panic will set in.
Well, and I will say this. I do think that it's only 13 games, right?
With all due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
So I think that there's a moment here. I mean, it's mid-April. There's a lot of baseball left. They can come back from this.
A lot of baseball, Dan, and summer is soon upon us. A lot of warm days left. And is there anything better to eat on a hot day, Dan, than some cool coleslaw? So it's officially coleslaw season here. You got to grab a jar of Jimmy's coleslaw dressing to give your slaw the zip and zing that everyone will be talking about. Available in original, fat-free, and pineapple, Jimmy's is family fun and locally owned. Delicious on burgers, brats, and as a summertime side. You can't go wrong with Jimmy's. Pick up a jar today. Jimmy's salad dressing and dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's Headlines.
Dan, a ton to talk about things happening around the league. First of all, Vlad Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays agreed to a 14-year, $500 million contract extension.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
So I think those people holding out hope that the Twins were going to get him somehow in either a trade or in the offseason, I think that's done. But my question, Dan, is should we lock up France now?
I mean, he is a first baseman, and as you know, David, that's an incredibly difficult position.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, but they can have Vlad. That's a lot of money for Vlad. I don't know that's the last 7 years of that contract may not be nearly as good as the first 7.
No. And then another note here, Mookie Betts reaches the 1,500 hits plateau, and he's 31. Do you think that Mookie Betts will reach 3,000 hits, Dan?
I got to say yes, because I want people to hit 3,000 hits. Like, I want to be able to say, yeah, I saw that guy play. So I sure hope so. It's what him and like Altuve are kind of up there, and Trout's got to be high on that list at some point too. So you got to think those are kind of the next 3 maybe who could have a chance.
Yeah, I don't think that Trout has stayed healthy enough for so many seasons, and I don't know how many he has left to be hitting in his prime. And I think that Altuve, I think he'll retire before he gets there. So yeah, I think that Betts is probably the best option.
Might say he's the best bet, David.
It's like a pun. It's a play on words.
Just
walked right into that one.
I did miss you, Dan. I did miss you while you were on vacation. But I didn't miss that. Next note here. The Giants reveal their new City Connect jerseys, which I kind of keep forgetting that this is like a cycle now.
Right.
We're going to get new City Connect jerseys because, again, for Twins fans, it'd been a while since we had like a refresh, and then we got a whole bunch of new stuff all at once. And it's like, there's only so many shirts and hats and jerseys I can buy, Dan. But the Giant City Connect jerseys came out. I don't really care for them. It's sort of like this, I don't know, pop art graffiti looking jersey. And like you can find pictures of it all over online. I don't really care for the hats. I don't really care for the jerseys. It's not my least favorite City Connect out of everything that's come out, but I wouldn't think about buying a hat like that, Dan.
Yeah, I would. I'm just a City Connect guy. I look at my collection of hats from other teams and I'm like, dang, here I bought another one. So hopefully I can go to San Francisco the next couple of years and get one of those cool hats.
Yes. Last note here, Dan. Rays Angels game happening at the Yankees AAA complex. And there's a ball hit. We have a Rays player going back. This is Morel, the left fielder, and he runs back and he jumps up and it looks like he's going to rob a home run. However, there's a guy. His name is Zach Hempel. Are you familiar with this gentleman?
I wasn't until you put the note in and I Googled him, and this guy has an uncanny ability to be where home runs are.
He has a lot of balls, and he goes out of his way to make sure he gets as many MLB balls as he can, Dan. And he, in this moment, reaches what I would argue looks very clearly over the wall and steals this ball. And the Rays challenge it, and the call is upheld. It's still called a home run. So let's have a discussion here about this. I think you and I are both in agreement that if there's a chance that a player has a play on a ball, you as a fan have an obligation to do what you can to make it possible for that player to make a play on the ball, regardless of if it's your team or not. And I just think from a sporting competition perspective, that's the sportsmanlike thing to do, Dan.
I think 2 things about this. First off, if a baseball is getting hit at you and you have a glove in your hand, your instinct is to reach for it. So I do get that. At the same time, this guy has like 1,000 baseballs. Yeah. So like this is his thing, is to try to catch them. So he needs to have a little bit more self-control or restraint to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't stand right there where I'm going to reach. You know, like, come on, man. Like, you're old enough to know.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I just, come on.
Yeah, I think that I didn't read so much into that guy. I know that he's got a whole bunch of different controversies and players wouldn't give him balls or some would. I don't know.
He's like a 47-year-old dude, bro. Like that's, I don't love that.
It's just my swing, bro. Just my swing. Well, with that, Dan, here, let's make our picks for the upcoming Tigers series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Puckett's Picks.
So the listeners are going to take Wallner off the board. Then it goes to you, Dan Thompson.
The Tigers are throwing 3 righties. I didn't look to see their splits, but I'm going to go with a lefty. I'm going to say Trevor Larnach has his week.
Yeah, I think Wallner is the right guy to pick here. This is sort
well,
of like
he's not, but it's the next lefty, right?
I realize, so, yes. No, I think it's a good pick. I'm not arguing. Folks, little inside baseball here. I'm trying a new setup. If you're watching the video clips, you'll see I put the mic on the other side. I think my hand is just super visible in these clips right now. And I am a very, like when I speak, I use my hands. It's what I do. But I do This is so funny to have my hand so free on the right-hand side. I feel like I'm constantly motioning this entire episode. So if you're watching the video clips and you see my hand moving a whole bunch, I'm just not used to this freedom. But anyway, that being said, Hogs is going to take France, which makes a ton of sense.
After all, miss, this is France.
And if he's available, Dan Thompson, my rule still applies. I have to take Carlos Correa.
I want to build a championship culture.
I mean, one of these weeks, those 100-mile-an-hour hits have to land in the stands, right? You think this guy's going to get a home run at some point.
It's really frustrating, honestly, that so many people are like, Correa's had such a down season, when I think that, he's hitting to some double plays, and that's been a problem. Yeah. But if you look at that guy's exit velocity on balls hit, his expected batting average on balls in play is like 400 or something insane like that. Like, he deserves more hits than he's received.
So it's going to be me and Hogs on Sunday, David. You have the Sunday off, which I'm excited for you to have that time. We will try not to talk about you too much, as Hogs and I often do.
Please. Nobody wants to hear about me, Dan. I don't want to hear about me.
No, so enjoy your Sunday off. Hopefully Hogs and I are talking about a Twins sweep. And I think with that, I'm going to send us out.
Please do. Thank you, sir.
Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win. You can find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite platforms so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in our description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins. That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.